Good morning, students. Today we are starting the third chapter of our unit Human Physiology, that is body fluids and their circulation. See, when we are talking about body fluid, we already know that our 60% of the body is constituting of water. Water is present in maximum amount in our body, and these fluids are basically used in the purpose of transportation. All the transportation of substances, whether we are talking about the transportation of food, we are going to talk about transportation of hormones, enzymes, gases also, everything is going to be transported with the help of body fluids. These body fluids are categorized as, means two type of body fluids are present. One is intracellular fluid and the second one is extracellular fluid. Intracellular fluid simply means the fluid that is present inside the cell. Cytoplasm is there, that is also jelly-like substance. So, inside the cell, the fluid that is present is intracellular fluid. And extracellular fluid is that is going to present outside the cell, or I can also then say that the fluid that is present in between the two cells, or you can say in between the tissues, that is going to constitute this whole is extracellular fluid outside the cell. Now if we see the composition of intracellular and extracellular fluid, different type of ions are present in different concentration in the intracellular and extracellular fluids. In intracellular fluid, potassium, phosphate, they are present in maximum concentration. Magnesium is also there in some moderate conditions. So they are in high concentration in intracellular. But if we talk about the extracellular fluid, sodium is there, chloride ions are there. They are present maximum in extracellular fluid. That means ionic concentration plus the type of ions are varying in intracellular and extracellular fluids. Now, where intracellular is present in all the cells, where this extracellular fluid is present, or this extracellular fluid is composing a interstitial fluid. We are talking about extracellular fluid. This is composed of interstitial fluid, means the fluid that is present between the tissues, or you can say between the cells. That is also a part of extracellular fluid. Now the fluid that is present in our blood plasma, or you can say plasma, that is also a part of extracellular fluid, and this blood plasma is containing lots of almost 90% of water. Then our lymph is also containing fluid, and this is also constituting the extracellular fluid. Other than these, we are having CSF, cerebrospinal fluid. This cerebrospinal fluid is flowing in the ventricles of brain. They are present between the meninges of brain as well as spinal cord. Ventricles are the empty spaces that are present in the brain. So here a fluid is continuously flowing, and that fluid is known as cerebrospinal fluid. That is also a part of extracellular fluid. Now another one is the fluid that is present in our eyes. Aqueous humor is there, and on the backside vitreous humor is present. So this is also composing the extracellular fluid. Then we are having serous fluid. When I talked about lungs, I told that outside the lung, pleura is present, parietal pleura and visceral pleura, and inside this cavity that is formed between parietal and visceral pleura, a cavity is formed that is filled with fluid. So that fluid is also a part of extracellular fluid, pleural fluid. Just like that, heart is also protected by a protective covering that is pericardium. So parietal pericardium and visceral pericardium is there, and in between them a cavity is formed, and this cavity is filled with the fluid that is pericardial fluid. So all these are composing the extracellular fluid. We are having fluid in our joints, synovial fluid, and this synovial fluid is present in our joints. So this is also a part of extracellular fluid. Other than these, we are having fluid in our digestive tract. Various type of digestive juices are secreted. So this fluid is also present in our digestive tract in form of digestive juices. Digestive juices are there. Then our excretory system is also containing fluids, and these are also the part of extracellular fluid. This is how different body structures, different body parts are having this extracellular fluid, and this extracellular fluid is having high concentration of sodium ions. Now we have to talk about the important body fluids, and one of them is blood. Blood is a loose connective tissue. It is fluid in nature. We know various things about blood, and it is mesodermal in origin. See, when embryo grows, the embryo is basically having three germ layers: ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm. And from these germ layers, various body organs and tissues are going to form. Some of them may be, like our skin is ectodermal in origin, means it has arisen from ectoderm. Just like that, blood has arisen from mesoderm. That's why I am saying it is mesodermal in origin. It has derived from the second germ layer, that is mesoderm. Now this blood is composed of two parts. One is plasma, that is constituting most of the part of the blood, and the second part is formed elements. Plasma is all the matrix part or the liquid part of the blood, and these formed elements are basically the cells, or you can say corpuscles, that are present inside this blood plasma. Now if we talk about the pH of the pH of the blood is slightly alkaline. It is near about 7.4, and because of the presence of RBCs inside the blood, that is part of formed element, and that RBC is containing a red color pigment, hemoglobin, the blood appears red in color. See, you can see one thing, when we are talking about arteries, they seems to be red in color, but when we talk about veins, vein can be easily seen near to our skin, they appears to be purple. The reason behind this is both are carrying blood, but the difference is the arteries are going to carry oxygenated blood. That blood is rich in oxygen, mostly, without some of the exceptions, and the veins are going to carry deoxygenated blood. Because of the increased concentration of carbon dioxide inside the veins, the color has slightly bit changed. Otherwise, blood is red in color because of the presence of hemoglobin inside it. We are going to discuss each and every component of blood in detail. Let's discuss about blood plasma. What this blood plasma is having? This blood plasma is matrix part. It is basically having 90% water. That's why it is mobile, and 90% water is constituting this blood plasma. Other than this 90% water, this blood plasma is having various minerals. Various minerals are there, like sodium ions are there, chlorine is there, magnesium is there, phosphate is there. So different type of minerals are present in the blood plasma. This plus plasma is also having food particles, food elements like glucose, lipids are there, proteins are there. So they are also present inside the blood plasma. We know after digestion, all the digested food particles are absorbed by the blood capillaries and they are circulated in the body. Other than this, specific proteins are present inside the blood plasma. Specific proteins like albumins. Albumins are basically responsible for maintenance of water and ionic balance in the blood. That means they are helping in the process of osmoregulation. Other than albumins, other proteins are also present like globulins. And these globulins are having defense mechanism. They are providing the ability to fight with the foreign substances, or you can say pathogens. So defense mechanism is the function of globulins, and some fibrinogen are also there. Fibrinogen are the blood clotting factors. They are preventing the loss of blood. Whenever there is specific injury, then these blood clotting factors are going to activate and they will clot the blood and prevent the loss of the blood. So these are some of the proteins that are present inside the blood plasma. Now this blood plasma is also having some dissolved gases. We know gases are transported with the help of blood. In RBC, hemoglobin is there that is going to bind with oxygen and carbon dioxide. So blood plasma is containing some concentration of oxygen, carbon dioxide. They are also present. Other than these, some excretory substances are present inside the blood plasma, like urea is there, uric acid, creatine. These are ammonia, can also a small amount of ammonia can also be there. These are some of the excretory substances that are present inside the blood plasma. Other than these, anticoagulant. A natural anticoagulant is also there, that is known as heparin, which is secreted by liver. The function of heparin, it prevents the clotting of the blood. Inside the body, when blood is flowing, it is always in a fluid form, means clot formation is not there, and that is because of the presence of an important anticoagulant, heparin. Hormones are also present. The endocrine glands are going to secrete the hormones into the blood, and now blood is going to transport these hormones to different parts of the body. So hormones are also present inside the blood plasma. Now different minerals, vitamins are also present in these in the blood plasma. So all these things are present inside the blood plasma. Now what this blood plasma is doing, what are the functions of blood plasma? First function of blood plasma is It is helping in the distribution of food particles, digested food particles. Food particles to the cells of our body. So it is having various food particles, and these food particles should be distributed to each and every cell of the body. Other than this, it is helping in providing oxygen to the body. So transportation of oxygen is also one of the important function of blood plasma. From here oxygen is getting transported. Other than this, there are various ions that are present in this blood plasma. So it is maintaining the pH of the blood. You can say a proper buffer system is functioning, which is helping in the maintenance of pH. Acid base balance is always maintained. This is containing, plasma is containing heparin, so it is preventing coagulation of blood inside the body. Because of the presence of heparin, blood coagulations does not take place inside the body. It is having fibrinogen. We talked various blood clotting factors are present. So it is helping, or it is preventing loss of blood during the time of injury. These are some of the functions that are performed by blood plasma. Now let's discuss the second component of blood, that is formed elements, or you can say different type of cells that are present inside the blood. And the cells which are present in highest amount are RBC. They are present maximum in the blood, and these cells are known as red blood cells. Red name simply because they are appearing red in color. So first we are going to discuss about red blood cells. If we see the total count simply means how many red blood cells are present in per microliter of blood. So in a normal male, the total count is 5 million per cubic millimeter of blood, and in females, in a normal adult female, this count is almost 4.5 million per cubic millimeter of blood. The amount is less in females because of the menstruation. In females, a menstruation cycle works every month, and because of this, some amount of blood is lost every month. That's why there is less amount of RBCs present in females as compared to males. Now sometimes there is abnormal increase in the level of RBCs, and this abnormal increase in level of RBCs is known as polycythemia. Just like an abnormal increase, there can be decrease in the level of RBCs because of many situations, like there can be deficiency of iron, and deficiency of iron is leading to anemia. So there can be decrease in level of RBC, and this condition is known as erythrocytopenia. What happens when there is decrease in the level of RBCs? The individual feels shortage of oxygen. We know that RBCs are having hemoglobin, which are going to fulfill the oxygen requirement of our body. So when RBCs are less in number, less hemoglobin will be there, and less amount of oxygen will be transported. So there will be shortage of oxygen. Now this shortage of oxygen is going to send a message to the kidney, and kidney are going to release a hormone called erythropoietin. And erythropoietin hormone is increasing, facilitating the secretion or increase the secretion of RBCs inside the bone marrow. RBC are going to be formed in the bone marrow. Bone marrow are present in the longer bones, in the center of the longer bones of our body. So this erythropoietin is the hormone that is stimulating the secretion of the release of RBCs in the blood, and because of this stimulated synthesis of RBCs, the oxygen requirement can be fulfilled. Now if we see the shape and structure of RBCs, in mammals they are biconcave and circular in shape. And circular. While in some of the organisms like llama, they are oval in shape also. This shape is providing them more surface area for better exchange of gases. They are providing more surface area for better exchange of gases. They are almost 7 to 8 micrometer in their diameter and 1 to 2 micrometer in their thickness. Means they are not very large size cells. Plus, one thing is more important about this mammalian RBCs, they are not having nucleus. Nucleate. They are enucleate. They are devoid of nucleus. Other than nucleus, they are also not having most of the cell organelles like mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi bodies. These are absent in RBCs, and there is reason behind that. These RBCs are providing more space for the accommodation. They are almost empty and they are providing more space for the complete space or complete cytoplasm is accommodated by hemoglobin. Simply, more the content of hemoglobin, more oxygen will be transported. So this is the one reason. Second reason is, if cell organelles are not present here, mitochondria is not present here, that means the use of oxygen inside the RBCs is almost negligible. They are not going to use the oxygen. All the amount of oxygen that is present inside the RBC is transported. They are not using itself. They are undergoing or they are going for anaerobic respiration. So, to increase the efficiency, to maximize the transportation of gases, mature mammalian RBCs are enucleated. They are not having nucleus in them. Plus, they are not having most of the cell organelles inside them. They are completely filled by the pigment that is hemoglobin. This hemoglobin is red in color, and this red color is because of the presence of iron. There is an iron complex that is present inside the hemoglobin, in the center of the hemoglobin, and that is providing red color. And because of the presence of this hemoglobin, RBCs are also appearing red in color. If we see RBCs in bulk, then they are appearing in red color. When we see a single RBC individual, they are present or they are pale yellow in color. So a single RBC is pale yellow in color and bulk of RBCs are appearing red in color. Now this hemoglobin is made up of two components. There is a protein part and a non-protein part. The protein part of hemoglobin is called globin and the non-protein part is known as heme, which is containing iron. With this heme component, oxygen is going to bind, and in one hemoglobin, 4 globin units are going to bind with 4 heme units. And the function of this hemoglobin will be, it is going to bind with gases and it is helping in the transfer of gases. The amount is nearly almost 13 to 16 grams per 100 ml of blood. This is the amount of hemoglobin that is present inside the blood. The process I already told the process of formation of RBC is taking place inside the bone marrow, and the process of formation of RBC is known as erythropoiesis. So erythropoiesis is taking place inside the bone marrow, and it is stimulated by the hormone erythropoietin that is secreted by the kidney. Now, for the maturation of RBC, there is requirement of folic acid and vitamin B12. These are required for the maturation of RBC. And for the formation of hemoglobin, iron and proteins are required. These are required for the formation of hemoglobin. And when there is deficiency of these components, there will be less RBCs, less content of hemoglobin is there, and the person is going to suffer from anemia. So these are some of the things that are related with RBCs. One more thing that is related with RBC is erythrocyte sedimentation rate, and this is linked, or this is used in knowing about various type of diseases or various type of abnormal situations. What is erythrocyte sedimentation rate? Erythrocyte word is for RBCs. They are also known as erythrocytes. Sedimentation is settling down. So erythrocyte sedimentation simply means when we are having blood in the test tube and we keep it, this is blood is there and we are keeping in a stationary position, then we will see at what rate the RBCs are going to settle down. They are going to settle down because their density is high as compared to rest of the blood plasma. So the rate at which they are going to settle down, that rate is known as erythrocyte sedimentation rate, and this is used, or this technique is used for the checking of various type of disorders. When these RBCs are flowing at a slow speed in our body, they are moving with a slow speed, they are going to clump together, they are going to form a layer, they are going to fix together, and this is lead to the formation of a Rolex. So Rolex simply means then they are moving in a slow and steady speed, they are going to form layers, they are going to, you can say, stick to each other, and a Rolex is formed. So this is all about the RBCs, which are the most abundant cells that are present in the blood plasma. The second cells that are present in our blood plasma are WBCs. They are known as white blood cells, or you can say white blood corpuscles. These are white in color simply because they are not having hemoglobin in them. That's why they are known as white blood cells. They are also known as leukocytes. If we see the total leukocyte count, the total leukocyte count is very less than the RBCs. It is near about 6,000 to 8,000 per cubic milliliter of blood. If we see the WBC to RBC ratio that is present inside the blood, it is almost 1:600. So they are in very less amount, they are present inside the blood. Again, their number can increase, or there is abnormal increase in the number of WBCs. The abnormal increase in the number of WBCs takes place during various infection situations. It can be a bacterial infection or it can be a viral infection. At that time, the WBCs are getting increased in the number. But sometimes there is a abnormal increase in the number, and it is also known as leukemia. That is related to blood cancer. So this is showing abnormal increase in the number. These WBCs, they can also decrease in the number, in the content, means the individual has. The WBC are known as soldiers of our body. They are going to fight with the various disorders, various diseases, foreign agents that are entering in our body. So their number if decreases, that means our immune system is getting weak and it is not having the ability to fight with various infections, that various foreign pathogens that are entering in our body. And this decrease in the number is known as leukopenia. So leukopenia is decrease in the number of WBC. So there can be abnormal increase or decrease in the number of WBC. If we see the size of WBC, they are having a bigger size as compared to RBCs. They are almost 13 to 20 micrometer in their diameter. So the size is big. But if we talk about the shape of WBCs is abnormal, or you can say irregular shape. They are irregular shaped. Just like amoeba is showing irregular shaped movements, just like that these WBCs are also irregularly shaped and they can easily leak out from the blood vessels. And this process of leakage of blood vessels, they are showing amoeboid movements. They can change their shape and they can be removed out, or they can be leaked out from the blood vessels, and this is known as diaptesis. So diaptesis simply means leakage of WBCs because of their amoeboid movement. And because of this leakage, they are also the component of lymph. Earlier we are going to talk about lymph, and we will see that in lymph also various leukocytes are present, but RBCs are not present because they are not going to leak out from the blood vessels. The RBCs that are present in our blood are of two types. We categorize these RBCs into two types. One are known as agranulocytes and the second one are called granulocytes. How we are differentiating them? Simply we are differentiating them on two things. Agranulocytes are not having granules. Small sized particles are present in the cytoplasm. So no granules are present in the cytoplasm. That's why agranulocyte plus their nucleus is in regular shape. So normal centrally located nucleus is present, that is of regular shaped nucleus. This is how agranulocytes are appearing. When we talk about granulocytes, what characteristics granulocytes are showing? They are having granules in their cytoplasm. That's why they are given the name granulocyte, and along with the granules in the cytoplasm, their nucleus is lobed. The nucleus is not a circular nucleus, it is divided into many lobes. So this is how agranulocytes and granulocytes are differentiated. Now see each of the type of WBC. In agranulocytes, we generally talk about lymphocytes, the lymphocytes are the cells which are having less cytoplasm. There is scanty of cytoplasm, and in the center a large nucleus is present. These lymphocytes are of two types. They are B and T lymphocytes. And how they are functioning? They are functioning by stimulating antibodies. They are responsible for the formation of antibodies against the antigens which are going to enter inside our body, and they are going to fight with them. They are not phagocytic in nature. The second type of agranulocytes, that are monocytes, are having more cytoplasm. Nucleus is a little bit less. Bean shaped nucleus is there. Plus the main function of these monocytes are phagocytosis. They are phagocytic in nature, means they are going to engulf the foreign substances that are going to enter into our blood. This is how monocytes are functioning. From blood, these monocytes, sometimes they enter into tissues, in our body tissues, and when they enter into the body tissue, their size enlarges, and now these cells are known as macrophages. So monocytes are going to form macrophages at tissue level, when they are going to function at tissue level. So this is how they are making our immune system. These lymphocytes fights against various viral infections, the tumor cells that are produced in our body, various bacterial infections also. So this is how agranulocytes are present in the blood. The second type of WBCs are granulocytes. Three types of granulocytes are present in our blood, and their name are upon the stain which they are taking. First is eosinophil. If they are granulocytes, that means granules are present in their cytoplasm. These eosinophils are having a nucleus which is having two lobes. So a two-lobed nucleus is there. Nucleus is present, plus they are known as eosinophils because they are going to take, the granules are going to take acidic stain. For example, eosin. That's why eosinophils. The name is eosinophils. Now these eosinophils are going to increase in their number during the time of a allergic situation. They are functioning in allergic situations. So the person who are allergic to some of the components, in them the number of eosinophils will be increased. The second type of granulocytes that are present are basophils. Basophils are named basophil because they are stained with basic stain. They are going to take a basic stain like methylene blue. The basophils, they are having a three-lobed nucleus, and they are mostly functioning in inflammatory reactions. The inflammatory response or inflammation is a natural response of our body that is fighting against any type of infection. So in these such situations, the number of basophils will be more. The third type of granulocytes are neutrophils. They are named neutro because they are not properly stained with acidic dye or not properly getting stained with basic dye. They are stained with a neutral dye. That's why neutrophils. And their nucleus is very much disturbed, or you can say no proper shape of nucleus is there. Multiple lobes are there, and they are the maximum amount of neutrophils are present among all the granulocytes. The maximum amount is of neutrophils, and these neutrophils are functioning like monocytes, means they are also phagocytic in nature. They are going to do the process of phagocytosis. They are going to engulf the particles, the foreign particles, microorganisms that are present inside the blood. So this is how different type of WBCs are present, and all these WBCs are helping us to fight against various infections. Means these all are composing the immune system of our body. The third and the last one are platelets. Platelets are also known as thrombocytes, and the formation of platelets is known as thrombopoiesis. Forgot to tell you about the release or secretion of WBCs. They are also formed in the bone marrow. And if we talk about their lifespan, the lifespan of RBC is 120 days. The lifespan of WBC is, when they are present in blood, they are living for few hours, and when they are present in tissues, they are living for few days. This is the lifespan of RBCs and WBCs. Now platelets. What platelets are going to do? The function of platelets is, they are also going to form in bone marrow, and these are formed from the large cells of bone marrow, and these large cells of bone marrow are known as megakaryotes, and they are involved in the process of formation of platelets known as thrombopoiesis. Now these platelets, they generally remain stable inside the blood, but when there is injury, there is any type of injury, at that time these platelets are going to secrete various blood clotting factors. Later on we will talk about the blood clotting mechanism, in which lots of blood clotting factors are functioning, which are secreted from these platelets. Means the main function of blood platelets is to form blood clot, or they prevent loss of blood during the time of injury. This is the function of platelets. So this is how all the blood formed elements, or you can say blood corpuscles, are present in our blood. We will talk about the next topic, that is ABO blood group system, in our next video.